Sathya Sai Speaks, Volume 5, Chapter 24. Be above and beyond. The seed grows slowly into a huge spreading tree. So too, through tiny acts, soft words, and kind deeds, man elevates himself into a divine being. The worst action is to do the opposite of what you preach, to deny by the hand what you dole out of the mouth. If you cannot act up to your declarations, keep quiet. Do not go about advising and advertising that you are hypocrites. Do not preach dharma, virtue, while decrying it indeed. Dharma is steady, unchanging. It can never decline. What happens is, those who have to practice dharma decline in faith and steadiness. By practice is a man judged, not by the precepts that he pours forth. One speaker was just now giving a list of sages and saints who were born in this district in the past. But you must ask yourself the question, what use have we made of their experience? How have we benefited? When that list is being elaborated upon, you have to hang down your heads and lament the decline in spiritual development. You have to ask, how have we deserved this heritage? The president quoted an English poet who said that life is like a pastime for God who crushes a butterfly after playing with it for some time. They kill us for their sport. Life is a tale told by an idiot, he quoted. He said what Western poets spoke of fate as blind and cruel and had recently developed despair regarding human progress in spite of technical and technological advances. This only reveals that they have no deep experience, no illumination. Separate yourself from the grief. The experience of saints in this country is different. They have known, and you have also to know, that the body with a form and a name is just a temporary habitation. Form and name make everything temporary. You hear of the Lord giving darshan, audience in the temple, wearing a diamond-set hastam, hand. That means the Lord is conceived as having a name and a form, which are limitations, and therefore temporary, attached to a particular manifestation only. Form and name are needed for experiencing sukha, pleasure, and sukha involves dukkha, grief also. They are the obverse and the reverse of the same coin, this side and the other side of a sheet of paper. Grief is caused, as joy is caused, by the attachment of the senses to objects. Once you know that you are not the senses or the mind, but He who operates the senses and wields the mind, you cross the bounds of pleasure and pain. The President of India had a recent domestic bereavement. But he did not import that grief into his role as president, did he? No, the duties of the president were performed without any hindrance or loss of interest. Separate yourself from the grief. You are the president of your realm, the senses and the mind, with all the attendant impulses. Desires, attitudes, etc. are your servants, instruments that have to carry out your orders. The Vedas teach you this truth. Once, as part of a marriage procession, an elephant was also pushed along, a wicker elephant, life-size. People looked at it in wonder, and some even dared to find fault with it, saying the legs were too short, the ears were inadequate, etc. But the thing was filled with crackers, and in a few moments, when it was lit, the whole contraption exploded in a blaze of brilliantly colored shooting stars. With a tremendous bang, Why should there be so much criticism of a thing which, like the body, will soon go up in flames? The body is but an instrument for a high purpose, the realization of the glory that fills the universe, of which you are a fraction. Road to God is filled with immense hardships. Use all the talents of your senses, the intelligence and memory for this purpose. Transform values, sublimate desires, let the higher always overrule the lower. Like the ass that carries sandalwood without knowing anything more than its weight, man too carries the burden of worldly worries, without being aware of the fragrance which he can really get from the very burden on his back. The censors will drag him away from the higher purpose, so they must be kept under strict control by rigorous training. Without this mastery over the censors, all the elaborate puja, ritual worship, all the long hours of dhyana, meditation, all the vows you observe are mere mummery. True devotion must not get dispirited, nor elated or satisfied with lesser gains. It must fight against failure, loss, calumny, calamity, ridicule, and against egoism and pride, impatience and cowardice. Read the lives of Jayadeva, Tukaram, Ramdas, and Sakubai. Go through the stories of how the gopis calumnied Radha. Then you will realize the immensity of the hardships they underwent when they traveled on the road to God. You find how a number of people who open their mouths wide in admiration of Western countries, who prepare rockets to travel to the moon and go round the earth. They may circle lakhs of miles in space, but they know not how to proceed half an inch more towards their neighbor. Or brother, they do not dare explore their inner reality, though they are eager to explore the outer illusion. The truth that is in all beings is also in you. Search for that, discover that unity, that source of courage, of love, of wisdom. You do not realize that it is He who digests the food that you consume. For, as always, He says in the Gita, I am the Vaishnavara, fire that is in the bodies of all beings and digests the 4 types of food they eat. That fire digests food, but it is careful not to destroy the stomach itself. He is the basis of all activity, though himself unconcerned. Do not allow the world to get into you. Be like the lotus, unattached to the slush where it is born, and the water in which it is bred. The merits and demerits earned in past births is the slush, where the jivi is born. Maya, or the enticing illusion called world, is the water which sustains. But do not allow that enticement to affect you. Be above and beyond the earthly attachments like the lotus. Know that though you may be in it, you should not allow the world to get into you and affect your sense of values. It is the stilled sense of values that makes you carry a radio receiver strapped to your shoulder even when you come here. This has become a fashion. Sons-in-law now try to extract a transistor radio from their fathers-in-law as quickly as possible. There was a young man in a big town. It so happened that his father arrived on a visit and was received at the railway station by the son himself. They were going home in an auto rickshaw when the father, already confused by the roar and noise of the traffic, noticed someone carrying a small rectangular box strapped on his shoulder. He saw many more such boxes, carried proudly by young men fashionably attired and walking in a strut with nonchalant gaze. He asked his son what they were charged in the town for a shave, and when the son answered a half rupee, he was surprised that it was so cheap. These barbers going about with those boxes strapped on their shoulders are so well dressed and rich looking that I thought they must be charging 5 rupees at least, he said. The poor man thought the transistor radio sets were barbers' boxes. In fact, many who carry them and tune in do not know the ABC of music, Eastern or Western. Nor do they know an iota of geography or history or politics to appreciate the news. They carry watches on their wrists but do not know what hour it is. They have to stretch their wrists before those sitting next to them. They cannot read a watch, nor have they any engagement to keep. All this is but needless multiplication of misery. Know that which, if known, makes known everything that has to be known. This is the advice given to Uttaka by his guru as mentioned in the Upanishads. You are the core, the center of your world. Without you, there is no world for you. Unless you know yourself, you cannot know the world which is your creation. Now you ask everyone you meet, how do you do? But have you ever asked the question of yourself, how do I do? You ask every third person, who is he? But have you asked the first person, who am I? And searched for the answer. That is what the Vedanta teaches. That is what these Pandits are eager to tell you. Steady inquiry is essential. Some of you may ask, what is the use of telling all this to such vast gatherings? Things that have to be whispered in the ears of ardent seekers only. Well, how do you know that there are not many such here? I know that there are many who will treasure what they have heard today. They will ruminate over it. Perhaps they will remember it when the need for it becomes urgent and acute. They will then say to themselves, ah, Baba told us this that day when we heard him at Rajamundry. Nothing that is experienced will go to waste. It will shape the course of events. It will change attitudes and habits. It will purify and clarify situations and outlooks. That is why I want you to read the Bhagavad Gita. This learning of the Gita is like learning Ita. Swimming. Ita saves you from drowning. Gita saves you from drowning in the treacherous floods of worldly desire. The Gita is the real purpose for which the avatar of Krishna was undertaken. Man's 4 main duties. The Gita is his command. How can you earn the Master's grace if you do not carry out the Master's commands? If the son says, leave me to myself, I need no instruction from you, how can he expect the father to give him his share of the property? The Gita also helps you to recognize the incarnations of God. Usually, when the Lord appears with form, man is pestered by doubts and he actually loses the precious chance. He asks himself and all those whom he meets, is it true? Can it be true? And before his doubts are removed, he deserts the quest and wanders into the wilderness. Of course, steady inquiry is essential. Do not be led by others. Awaken your own reason. Amass your own experience and decide for yourself your own path. Then only can you get joy in treading it. If you are forced to take a path by others or persuaded into it by someone else, then when the first obstacle turns up, you will get dispirited and turn back. What exactly is your duty? Let me summarize it for you. First, tend your parents with love and reverence and gratitude. Second, Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. Speak the truth and act virtuously. Third, whenever you have a few moments to spare, repeat the name of the Lord with the form in your mind. Fourth, never indulge in talking ill of others or try to discover faults in others. And finally, Do not cause pain to others in any form. Now, the only thing that is cheap is man. All else have gone up in value. Man is the thing most defamed, most neglected. The minister was saying yesterday that when costly projects are planned and finished, when the area becomes rich and prosperous, the inevitable result is an unfortunate increase in crime and vice. Because there is no plan to build up the moral stamina of the human community the project is intended to benefit. The community can really be happy only if it has fine health, steady peace of mind, and intelligence valued and directed to the service of others. The recognition of the evanescence of the body and all things material must overrule the tendency towards pride and pomp and check avarice and ambition. Means have to be as noble as the end. Whatever happens, the path of virtue should not be given up. When Hanuman saw Sita in the Ashokavana at Lanka surrounded by ogresses, forlorn and helpless in the midst of her captors, he fell into such overpowering agony that he said to himself, "The whole world is sunk in sorrow since this mother is grieving. I shall take her on my shoulder and, leaping across the sea, restore her to Rama and make her happy." He invited Sita to accept his proposal, but listen to what Sita replied. She resisted the temptation to escape from captivity, to reunite with her Lord, to rejoin her people, her kith and kin. She stuck to the path of Dharma. "I should not, out of my own will, touch any male other than my Lord. Besides, it will detract from the glory that awaits my Lord, who will certainly liberate me by the prowess of his arm. If you carry me back now, you will be repeating the act for which we now condemn Ravana. The means are as important as the goal. The end does not justify the means. It has to be noble as the end." The president referred to the Prashanti Vidwan Mahasabha as having been founded by me. But remember, any institution or individual engaged in feeding the roots of Dharma are mine. I am in everyone who does good, speaks good, and thinks good. Rajamundry, March 31st, 1965. If the place you must reach is very near, you can just step across. If the distance is small, you may need a vehicle, bullock-drawn or horse-drawn. For longer distances, you may require a car or a plane, but the Lord is nearest to you. Slide ajar the door of delusion, part the curtain of ignorance, open the closed eye. He is right there before you. The fog of sensual pleasure is hiding him from you. Switch on the light, the darkness disappears and he becomes visible. Sri Sathya Sai Baba.